It is wet, and it is cold, and it is a mess. I'm not just talking about taking my dog out for a walk, because that's the case as well. But no. Hope you're being okay and everything going all right for you this morning. It was a little delayed for me just getting into the building, getting down here. Somebody was pulling Don Miller's leg, saying that accident had cleared off Mopac. It hasn't! Okay. But we made it in time. Good morning and welcome to Light the Tower on the Horn. 1049, 1019 AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. My name is Craig Way. Thanks for joining us. Jeff Howe will be along shortly. It's still a mess out there where I'm coming from the north and cut over on Toll 45 and down Mopac. It was a big old nasty wreck over there right by Howard Lane, and it's a mess over there. So be careful out there. Be careful all over the greater Austin area. Another guy who lives on the north side is our producer, Cameron Parker. You are a Round Rock resident, are you not?
That is correct.
Yeah. The I gotta say, I gotta hand it to people who travel I-35 through the Round Rock corridor.
Brutal.
They are nothing if not consistent on the slog that is going there from Toll 45 if you're going north all the way past Old Settlers. That is one grind.
Is that what you take to get to the station?
Yeah, coming southbound.
Yeah.
I'm right in the belly of the beast every day. And I've tried it the other ways. I've tried it going west, out 29 and coming in Ronald Reagan. None of that works very well. But when I lived in Cedar Park, as 183 was always a problem, as Don Miller calls it, the march to Mopac. That was always and still is an issue. So I'm used to it. I mean, I used to travel. It's just, I'm used to slow travel, and I'll take toll roads around, but toll 130 was a mess this morning. So there's some days it's just going to be bad. You just know. I've discovered, and I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago or so, since the pandemic, in the time beyond the pandemic now, the worst travel day of the week coming in is Tuesday. Because maybe the pandemic has, nudged some people into either a 4-day week or working at home more or working at home at least more on Mondays. Because Mondays are Mondays, and they're not great. But traffic-wise, I haven't run into near as many problems on Monday as I've had on Tuesday. Tuesday is, to me, by far the worst travel day of the week. Wednesday, not far behind it. And then Thursday eases up a little bit, and Friday's not bad a lot of times. Sometimes you run into it, but Mondays and Fridays are not what Mondays and Fridays were before the pandemic.
That's very true. A lot of people feel like they either take Monday off now or they have a Friday off.
Yeah. So, and somebody said spot on, Tuesdays are terrible. They are. It's the worst travel day of the week coming from either north or south. And there's some days, and Jeff will tell you this, there's some days when he doesn't have an assignment or that something he's wrapping up for Horns 24/7, and it's still tough for him to get here simply coming from the south. Hayes County can be a mess. Somebody said that doesn't matter the time of day. That stretch of 35 always has traffic. Absolutely it does. Spot on. Last night we had Longhorn Weekly, a special Texas women's basketball edition from Pluckers with Vic Schaefer. And Rory Harmon was out there, and Taylor Jones. We had a good time out there with the program last night. And, I'm going home at 8 o'clock at night, and it is bumper to bumper.
It's still
slow.
bad.
Yeah. It is what it is. I mean, you kind of get used to it, and you hope for the best. And, somebody else agreeing Tuesdays are the worst for travel. And I don't remember, I could be wrong about this, I don't remember it being like that pre-pandemic. Monday was the worst day pre-pandemic. In my view, at least where I was living in Cedar Park coming down, it was the view. And I know the I-35 corridor through Round Rock has always been bad, or at least since they started construction and other stuff, and traffic has picked up. I mean, did you grow up in Round Rock?
I spent a few years when I was a kid, so I don't remember it fully. I spent most of my schooling in North Carolina, but it's just that merging. People just anything that has to do with merging, they just kind of freak out.
Yeah. There's a lot. That's right. You grew up in the Charlotte area. That had slipped my mind momentarily. But anyway, that's where that is. But we're glad to be here, and hopefully everybody else is being careful and doing well also. Among the things that we have to talk, we will have a Longhorn notebook coming up at the bottom of the hour from Jeff. We're going to hear a segment from last night's Longhorn Weekly with Vic Schaefer coming up here in a few minutes. We'll also have a Longhorn notebook both at the bottom of this hour and next hour. We'll have a Flex 30 update. So we'll have those. We do have Inconceivable. We'll have that coming up as well. So all of that to come your way. And obviously some talk about Super Bowl 57. I heard Brian Billick on with Bucky and Aaron. I don't know. You haven't had a chance to see the Bullies of Baltimore yet, have you?
Not yet. Me and Jeff talked about it, but
you know what? It was on. Here's the funny thing. Sunday night, I was in Lawrence, Kansas with the men's team, and they had a practice inside of Allen Fieldhouse. And when the practice was over, there was a team dinner, and I told the story yesterday how Eddie Orrin and I drove over there. We were in a car and went over ahead of the buses, and it looked like the restaurant was closed. It wasn't closed. They were just getting it set up for the team. It was closed to the public, but getting it set up for the team meal. But when they got it all set up and we went down in, and it was in a downstairs kind of banquet room thing that we went down there for, they had it on ESPN. There were 4 screens in there, and all of them were tuned to that 30 for 30. And even though the volume was way down on it, I was mesmerized by it. I'm sitting there trying to cut into a steak or whatever to eat, and then I'm looking and I'm seeing all this stuff, and it was a unique way of doing it because a lot of the principals were there on stage, including the late Tony Saragusa.
It was like a round table, right?
Yeah, and Billick was part of it, and Ray Lewis was part of it. So they were and Trent Dilfer, and it was pretty interesting. Just the part that I did see. So I definitely want to watch the whole thing through. I watched some Big 12 basketball last night. Saw K-State and TCU. Kansas State was kind of in control, and TCU would make a run, and then Kansas State got up double digits, and TCU made a run and cut it to 6 with about 4.5 minutes to go. And Kansas State scored the next 15 points. 17-2 run to close out the game. They hit on all cylinders. Marquise Noel hit a Steph Curry range 3 way out there. That there's no point even stepping out to try to guard him on that, and he drains it. Keontae Johnson also had a big game for them. They had several. Desi Sills, who averages about, I think, 6 points a game. But he seems to do well against 2 teams, TCU and Texas. And the game, of course, they all did well, the game in Austin when K-State won. But even the other day, he was doing pretty well until they finally shut him down in the second half. So Kansas State beat TCU. Kansas State will be in that tie for 3rd right now with Kansas. And then we'll see what happens with Iowa State tonight playing at West Virginia. If Iowa State wins tonight, then they'll be tied with Texas at number 1. So that'll be the case if it does that. If Iowa State loses to West Virginia, then the Longhorns will still be in sole possession of first place. And so anyway, that'll be the case. And so there's that game. Baylor is hosting Oklahoma. Sooners have, I would say, kind of been in a free fall, even though they just took Alabama apart on that SEC Big 12 Challenge game, and then lost again to Oklahoma State. They got swept by the Cowboys and then got blown out over the weekend. So kind of hard to figure OU out. So there's that. And, of course, like I said, Texas women in action tonight against Texas Tech, a team that beat them in Lubbock last month. And due to the ongoing work to get 105.3 The Bat up and running again, that and Coke FM, their technical support equipment in terms of what happens with transmission of signal and all those kinds of things were damaged quite extensively in the ice storms. So DevCon Dave Williams, our chief man about the tech here in the building, and has some other specialists coming in, and they're working on that today. As a result of that, what we did last night with the special women's basketball edition of Longhorn Weekly with Vic Schaefer, we will bring you the Texas women's game against Texas Tech tonight on the Horn. It'll be on here beginning at 6:45 and the tip-off at 7 o'clock. Okay. Joined down by my co-host, the pride of Northwest Williamson County, proud graduate of Florence High School.
Always.
You know him best for his outstanding work at Orange 24/7. That's Jeff Howe. Jeff and I keep in touch with one another pretty regularly if there are traffic issues. Or, in the case of yesterday, you let me know pretty early that you were going to have to do the update on the Roberson signing, so you'd be delayed getting in. But some days, and I mentioned this, some days even when you don't even have an assignment, it's a difficult proposition getting in here, just like it was for me coming down to Mopac. For you...
This morning, what I text you? Yeah, I'm gonna be on time.
Yeah, you said I'll be there. No worries.
I check my map every morning. Do I need to take the toll road, or can I go 35? Everything looked fine. And clearly, by the time I got to just past Slaughter, things were not fine. So, yeah, it's just one of those things that happens.
Yeah.
But so I stayed up late last night, and like I said, some mornings I'm running a little bit behind because I've got some time with my daughter in the mornings, and I'm just not going to sacrifice that time. Say what you will, judge me if you want to, but I'm just not going to sacrifice that time. Stayed up watching LeBron break the record last night.
So did I.
Did you happen to see after they do the ceremony and LeBron drops the F-bomb and
he did, didn't he?
They go to commercial. Do you see what they showed?
Well, Linda and I were watching it, and right when he dropped the F-bomb, she turned to me and looked.
Cameron knows what I'm talking about. Did you see that?
Oh, Cocaine Bear.
Did you see that Cocaine Bear spot? Yeah. So I tweeted, I said, the only thing better than LeBron breaking the scoring record is LeBron breaking the scoring record, immediately followed by a reminder, the Cocaine Bear is coming.
And Linda Way reminded me that when we go to see that in the movie, she's in on it. She's watching. In fact, she almost sounded like, you are including me on this, aren't you? Because I'm like, yeah. I never thought otherwise. I thought as long as you were interested, absolutely.
I'm glad your wife is in on it because my wife wants nothing to do with Cocaine Bear.
Yeah. No, Linda wants to see it because she wants to see it for the same reason I want to see it, the unintentional comedy that comes from this. Because this is one where you have to suspend belief in things. You just have to suspend reality.
It's like watching a Fast and the Furious movie, It's like, yeah.
I am curious to see how they get the bear to do the things that they get the bear to do.
So is this like a shoot bear, like a real bear, or is this like a CGI bear?
Looked pretty real to me.
So it might be a shoot bear, not a working bear.
That one shot of the bear, with the cocaine all over its face, So I don't know. Anyway, she wants in.
As I've said many times to the listening audience that might not be familiar, like animals doing human activities, I just find hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I picture right now of a bear, not a bear on a cocaine bender, but maybe he's got his, USA Today or whatever his choice of newspaper is, and he's got his readers on, sitting in the booth at a Waffle House, like cutting his waffles. See, that's funny. Like you think about a bear sitting in a booth at a Waffle House reading a newspaper. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Again, suspending that. Anyway, there's that. Somebody said, tell Jeff that over 3 tons of cocaine was found in the Pacific Ocean by New Zealand police. Yes, we know that. That's a spoiler alert because I had it in Inconceivable, so we'll have that. We'll get to that. To the traffic issues and questions. Somebody said, dumb question. Is it a solid development from Belton to Austin now? That's not a dumb question, and it's not quite that.
Belton to Austin.
Because when you get below Salado, before you get to Gerald, like in the Prairie Dell area, and a little bit below that, right around, I think it'd be mile marker 280 to 275, right in that area, it's Not quite developed yet, but they've developed a couple other travel stops in that area, service station things. So it's not quite completely developed yet, but it's working there. It's getting there.
Depends on what Potato is talking about. If you're talking about like developed, like are there buildings? No, the road part is fine going through there. And actually going up through Temple, it's fine. Shoot, Craig, I can't even. It's like Waco is where the construction is now, right?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
It's done through there. The problem is,
I can't remember. I think the last time I went up that way was whenever Texas and Stanford played at the AAC
in December. Yeah. That it's finished. It's completed through Waco. Now, for whatever reason, there is a traffic slowdown, kind of like going through Round Rock when you go through Belton these days, when you go around that curve. When you go into town, people naturally automatically tense up and pucker up a little bit and slow down. That happens. I mean, and I'm talking about real slow down. I'm not talking about slowing down from 75 to 65. I'm talking about slowing down to 25. Stuff like that, and it causes
the Midway Drive exit right there on the Temple Belton line.
Yes, right in that area around past Central Drive and the curve there.
Shout out to those of you in the northernmost regions of the listening area, or if you're listening on the app.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the southern portion of the Super Centex region.
Yeah. Somebody said it's on the Specs text line at 337-3776. It said it's all those Californians who moved in the area, creating that 120 person per day increase in Williamson County.
The Californians.
Might have something to do with it. It could be the Californians. Somebody else said people just want to work from home Mondays and Fridays, especially Fridays to kickstart their weekend. And it could be. Somebody said because of COVID, my wife works from home on Mondays and in the office on Tuesdays. That, as I mentioned, that's what I have seen more so than coming out post-pandemic is less crazy traffic on the road on Mondays and Fridays, and that Tuesdays are the worst travel day of the week, and Wednesdays are only slightly behind that.
Wednesday, that was the one day that I was leaving the house, and there was a really bad wreck in San Marcos right around 123. And all the arteries around the 35 corridor were clogged. And I called you and I'm like, the only way I can get to the station is if I go like back to Wimberley and cut across through Driftwood. Like literally that was the only way I could get to the station that day. And I was a little behind schedule that morning. Yeah. Like, I'm like, there's just no other way.
Refresh my memory. The newest stretch of the toll road that you sometimes take, that it runs around the Mopac and it ends at
1626.
That's what I told my brother. He was asking about that. I said I can't remember I said it's 1626.
Yep.
Coming down from there. So that's where that is.
I'll be taking that drive home today because I got to stop at the Target over there in Kyle.
Oh, okay. And like I said, sometimes it works out better for you. Other times there may be a lot more traffic on that than there is on 35. Who knows?
Even like going home to San Marcos, because I live on the what would that be, the west side of San Marcos?
Yeah.
Going out toward Wimberley. So I'm like, okay, just check the map. Like it might be clogged up down 35, so I can't go to Wonder World Drive and go home. I got to go like take the Aquarina exit and go through campus and kind of weave my way.
Yeah.
Back to back way. So
yeah. So
a lot of traffic. Lots of
traffic. Somebody said Riverside area of I-35 is the worst. It's bad. I mean, it's been said. What was that survey that said that the I-35 stretch through Austin is the worst interstate stretch in the United States of America? And that was on a survey of traffic times and travel times in metropolitan areas and that sort of thing. I mean, I've been in L.A. freeway traffic. It's insane. And I've been in New York traffic, and that's bad too. And Dallas is bad, and Houston is awful.
At least New York, you know what you're getting into.
Yep.
And L.A., you know what you're getting into. Even though L.A. was surprisingly bad.
Yeah, it's when I covered the Super Bowl out there when the Cowboys played there, and I was going to, they had media availabilities in the Santa Monica Convention Center. This is 30 years ago. This was it was 30 years ago. It was January of 93. And it was bad just trying to get through. I mean, the bad freeway stuff, from what I've read historically about L.A., really started as early as the late 50s, early 60s. Jeez. That's how Vin Scully became so popular, because the Dodgers weren't putting their games on TV, and people were stuck in freeway traffic. And quite often the Dodgers had an East Coast game, that was first pitching at 5 p.m. California time. So folks are stuck in their cars on the freeway listening to Vin. That's how it started from there.
Awesome. When I went out there for the SC game in 17, my hotel was like 1.1 miles from the rental car return at LAX. Okay. And I remember putting on my traffic app. It said 45 minutes. I'm like, I could put the car in neutral and push it down the sidewalk and be there faster than what it's going to take me to drive it.
Yeah. That's LA for you there. So I'm listening from Bulverde on the Horn app. Way to go, Elio. Appreciate you doing that. Somebody said Houston's the worst just because it's Houston. Somebody else with grandparents on both sides in Belton. Yes, I meant buildings. It wasn't very clear about that. Back in the day, there was a lot of country between the two. There was. Somebody else says, this is the bear from the Great Outdoors next gig. It's been a long layoff. Really? The bald-headed bear, as they call him there in the Great Outdoors. Is that shot with the with that old rifle? It gets in and the fur flies up. And you see it looks like a human buttocks there, and the bear gets mad and screams and runs off from that. So.
Oh man, Craig, you seen this rare topic ESPN's tackling this morning?
Which one?
Has LeBron James passed Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time? I've never heard that discussed before, ever in the history of sports. This is a really good day, to stay away from the Scream at People shows. It's a really good day to avoid that.
Yeah, I think so. You know, my response to that a lot of times is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a great, great player, one of the greatest of all time, and was the all-time leading scorer until last night. But he wasn't considered the greatest player of all time, even though he was the all-time leading scorer. LeBron James is now the all-time leading scorer, and people can have their own argument about, LeBron versus MJ or whatever. But just because you're the all-time leading scorer does not mean you're necessarily the greatest player of all time.
I'm a LeBron fan, other than that period of time in Miami where the heel turn happened and the Mavericks got a title because of Heat dysfunction in year one. Yeah. But outside of that, I understand that there are some people that don't like LeBron. It has nothing to do with basketball. People don't like LeBron because of his stance, his political stances, and his stance on social justice and all that stuff. And whatever, that's fine. If you don't like LeBron because of that, great, whatever. But to not respect his place as an all-time great, at worst, even if you are the biggest LeBron hater in the world, and not recognize it, at the very least, you're talking about a top 3 to 5 player in the history of the game.
Yes.
Then that's just a very biased, very wrong, very slanted opinion.
Yeah.
To not look at it that way.
Right. I understand on that. What do you have coming up on the notebook?
We're going to talk about some Texas football expectations.
Okay.
Some early win totals are out, win total projections, and because we kind of got along some of this. It'll jibe with what we discussed on the Longhorn Blitz podcast this week, myself and Matt Butler and Rod Babers.
Okay.
On the Blitz, we talked a little bit about expectations, and then there's some of that stuff out. So we'll get into that. Some of my colleagues at 24/7 Sports, and then we'll go over what you can find at Horns 24/7. Some of this stuff right now, but we'll get into that.
Okay. All right. I wanted to run this bit of audio with Vic Schaefer from last night's show from Longhorn Weekly out at Pluckers, and again, we had a lot of fun with Taylor Jones and then Rory Harmon, lots of interesting questions and things like that. But I asked Vic about this rematch with Texas Tech. Now, remember, the Longhorns played, I think, their worst game of the season when they lost in Lubbock to Texas Tech. They couldn't keep from turning over the ball and missed a lot of open shots and things like that. And Vic's not rating, which loss is worse than another or anything like that. I just thought they didn't play well that night and lost. Now, having said that, Tech also got a couple of good performances. One was from a player who played for Vic at Mississippi State, Bree Amber Scott, and she had a big game, and she's been their bell cow all season long. But of late, the player who is really coming on, and she played pretty well that night, but the player who's really coming on is Bryn Gerlich, who is the daughter of the head coach, Krista Gerlich. And Bryn had been at Oklahoma State. Krista Gerlich had been at UTA, and she came in last year, and Bryn transferred in and playing for her mom. So it's not often you see that, but Vic has been through that with Blair Schaefer playing for him and, of course, now on his coaching staff. So that was part of what we talked about when we talked about this matchup with Texas Tech. And again, Bryn Gerlich's playing well, and they got some other players who play well for them also. So, Texas will have to deal with Bree Amber Scott, who's averaging 17 points per game. Bryn Gerlich is averaging 9, but in conference play averaging 11, and she lately, as Vic pointed out, is shooting the ball really well. Both Scott and Gerlich are shooting in the high 30 percentile, right near 40% from three-point range. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. So anyway, they'll have that to deal with, and that'll be tonight, and you'll hear it on the Horn at 6:45 with the airtime, and the tip-off is at 7 o'clock. All right, up next, we'll bring you the first hour edition of the Longhorn Notebook with Jeff. We have Inconceivable and a lot more as we continue to light the tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Maybe you didn't get a chance to see LeBron break the record last night. Maybe you didn't care to see it or whatever, or maybe you did. But whatever the situation is, if you weren't happy with how you viewed that, or something else last night because you're not completely satisfied with your home entertainment setup, your home entertainment system. That's where our friend Tom McKay in Audiovisual Consultations comes into play. He and his staff can work with you. They work within your budget, the space that will help you realize the visualization, what you want to do, whether it's an outdoor patio setup for a big screen, or in your man cave or bedroom or den or living room, wherever it might be. They've been down that road many, many times and done it many, many times before, and they can set it up for you the way you want it, where you don't have the, worrying about all the mounting and the equipment and the wiring and all of that sort of stuff. Tom and his staff handle all of that. So check them out on the web at avconsultations.com or give Tom and his staff a call today at 512-255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Or check them out on the web at avconsultations.com. Let Tom McKay and Audiovisual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment system of your dreams. I like how Cam Parker can hit us back with some yacht rock coming out of that, because you have the king of yacht rock right there, Michael McDonald. Now, this is still in his Doobie Brothers days. This is off that Living Off the Fault Line album, I think 1979.
Minute by Minute.
Minute by Minute, yeah. Yeah. Minute by Minute. But we got some other things to get to here on Light the Tower, which takes us right into our first hour Longhorn Notebook.
Jeff Howe's Longhorn Notebook.
Longhorn Notebook brought to you by Aaron Bowersock, your home loan expert and your Longhorn lender. Check her out on the web at bowersockteam.com.
We'll get more into this in the next Longhorn Notebook. But Cameron, can I get a breaking news sounder real quick?
Got some breaking
got a
news
little bit of breaking
there.
news. A little bit of breaking news. NFL Combine invites, Craig.
Yes.
Have gone out. Biggest Longhorn contingent we've seen at the Combine in a minute. Roschon Johnson, Bijan Robinson, Keandre Coburn, Moro Ojimo, DeMarvion Overshown.
5.
All headed to the Combine.
Okay.
No defensive backs. I was hoping to see one of Anthony Cook or Deshaun Jameson on that list.
Didn't happen.
But, they'll have to do it at the Pro Day. Pro Day is going to be really big for those guys. I mean, the guys that don't go to the Combine. Because the guys that go to the Combine, 9 times out of 10, they won't test anything. Retest anything at Pro Day, and they'll just do the on-field drills. So that's where things are. So 5 Longhorns going to the Combine. Not bad at all. Not too shabby. Yeah. Get over to Horns 24/7. And all these articles I'm going to mention are free, these 2 articles. From some of my colleagues at 24/7 Sports within the network. Dean Straka, who covers the Big 12 for us nationally, has projected win totals for every team in the Big 12. And Brad Crawford, one of our national writers, has 10 way too early bold predictions for 2023. Dean's is pretty cut and dried. He's got Texas at 10-2, Craig. 10 wins in the regular season. Brad's bold prediction, as far as it relates to Texas, is that Texas plays for a playoff berth in the Big 12 title game. When the Big 12 schedule release came out, excuse me, I'm still a little stopped up from a little cold that I'm getting over, but when the Big 12 schedule came out, I saw a lot of Longhorn fans online almost shifting expectations to 10 wins is the floor. You got to go win the Big 12 now. And I don't know what you could have seen on that schedule that would have laid. We talked about this on Longhorn Blitz, and anywhere you get your podcasts, search Horns 24/7. Click that follow button, and this week's episode of the Blitz is available already. I don't know what Longhorn fans could have seen that would have led them down the road of, okay, now this season's going to be easier, because there shouldn't have been any surprises on that schedule.
Right.
And the surprises on the schedule, I don't know that it necessarily made the schedule easier or harder or whatever. It kind of is what it is. Maybe it's the layout of the schedule, which, like we talked about, the 2 things I really wanted to know: where was the bye week, and if you were going to play BYU, where was the BYU game going to fall? And the bye week is right after the Oklahoma game, 2 weeks after the bye you play BYU, which I think if you're a Texas fan, you should like that. But I think looking at the road trips, Craig, you're getting on 2 planes this year.
Yeah.
Ames and Tuscaloosa. That's it.
This is the most fan-friendly schedule in terms of the driving. So for folks say, hey, Longhorn's got a real break on this. Maybe in some areas they did, but it's more about how it was more fan-friendly this year, because every trip is a drivable trip other than Tuscaloosa, unless you're starting out well in advance, and then obviously Ames.
So here's where we came out on this on the Blitz in terms of expectations. So for me, it doesn't change anything. I think a good year for Texas, to me, where the bar is set. I got in the mindset for the 2022 season of, okay, that last regular season game against Baylor, is that game going to matter? All right, because there's you've called plenty of these, Craig, and I've covered plenty of them. There's nothing more deflating to the football soul than being at a game Thanksgiving weekend that doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't have impact on virtually anything.
Conference championship or bowl position, nothing. Like nothing is on the line.
Right.
Which is, or in some years we've been there where there's been a coaching change shortly thereafter, but I digress. So you like for that game to matter. And last year it mattered. This past season it mattered. You needed to beat Baylor to give yourself a chance, and then you had to just sit back and watch and see what happened.
And Baylor had to win to try to get bowl eligible.
Yeah, so all those things that you talk about basically what is that benchmark? And for me, I said this our first show back, that you were back after the Alamo Bowl, that we were back together. The benchmark for me in 2023 for Texas is it's not about the number of wins. It's whatever number of wins it takes for you to get to Arlington. Whatever that number is, getting to Arlington to me is the benchmark.
Okay.
But Rod had a slightly different take than I did, but we both ended up getting to the same place where Rod said, you got to go win 9 or 10 games in a regular season because you got to improve your win total. You went 8-4 in the regular season in 22. You got to go 9-3 or 10-2. And to me, thinking about it out loud, just looking at historically, since the Big 12 went back to a championship game format, what record gets you into the conference championship game? 7-2 is pretty much going to guarantee you get into the conference championship game.
I agree.
So when you think about the non-conference schedule and a 7-2 conference record, I'm with Rod. I think either 9-3 or 10-2. If you've got to get to 8, 9, or 10 wins in the regular season, I think to show that you're headed in the right direction. The reason why, Craig, I can't say it's for sure double digits or for sure conference championship or bust. What happens if Texas has the TCU scenario play out? Let's say you're 10-2, you get to the Big 12 championship game, and you lose the conference championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you went 8 in that scenario. In my mind, one of your losses is Alabama. You went 8-1 during the conference schedule. You're going to tell me it wasn't a good year because you didn't win the conference championship? No, you won 10 games in the regular season. You have a chance to get 11 with a bowl game, and
you'll go to a New Year's Six
double
bowl.
digits. Yeah, you're in the New Year's Six, even though the Sugar Bowl is not. You don't have the tie-in this year because it's part of the semifinals or whatever. But yeah, one of those bowls is going to take Texas as an at-large as a double-digit win team, no question. So that's why I don't get necessarily hung up on the win total as much as for me it is whatever it takes to get to Arlington, but what it's going to take, probably 7 conference wins, which probably means 9-10 overall. Yeah. So at least 9 wins, which will probably get you to Arlington.
I have a way of looking at that similar to what you just laid out, and I remember thinking about this going last fall. And the phrase I put on it is the math works out. And you just laid it out, how the math works out. So for those who are galvanized in their opinion that it has to be double-digit wins, well, and then for those who say, no, they got to get to Arlington, the conference championship game, the math will probably work out that if you get to the 10 wins, there's every reason to believe you're going to be in Arlington, and the math would work out that way. If you're up about getting to Arlington, the conference championship game, you're probably that would probably do it, and the same thing about the numerical thing. So the math works out.
There's it could be one of those weird years where maybe a 6-3 conference record gets you there.
Yep.
But like it would have gotten Texas there this past season, Kansas beating Kansas State. But no, to one of the texters that just texted in, I think in jest, I'm pretty sure it's in jest, said it's because Kansas isn't on the schedule. No, Kansas is on the schedule. Texas hosts Kansas on September 30th.
Yeah.
That's the first conference game at home. The conference openers the previous week up the road at Baylor. But also, Craig, one thing that it reminded me of, it reinforced it for me. Rod brought this up a number of years ago, and everybody kind of laughed about it at the time, but it's 100% true. You remember how much grief Mac would take for the Texas State Championship thing? Like win all of your games inside the state of Texas?
Beat Tech, Baylor, TCU.
Beat the Texas institutions, and obviously the Oklahoma game is in Dallas. And if you win your games that you play in the state, if you defend your state, then you're probably going to have a good year. Well, take a wild guess when the last time it was that Texas won all of their regular season games played inside the state of Texas.
No, they didn't in 2013. 2009?
If you're listening out there and you guessed 2009, you guessed correctly. So, and even you go to 2018, and you look at they had a 9-3 conference record. You lose the Maryland game in non-conference. You went on the road and lost to Stillwater. You lost one game. You played for a conference championship. You lost one game inside the state of Texas before the Big 12 championship game. One regular season game played inside the state. That was the West Virginia game at home where you lost by 1 in the final seconds.
Yeah.
So winning that Texas State championship, and again, I know it's something, and I was guilty of it too. You scoff at it. You're like, oh my gosh, why are you making such a big deal out of it? No. If you take care of business on your home turf, good things are going to happen for you. And that's going to be the case this year.
The argument on that from fans a lot of times is, okay, that's great. We know you got to win that thing. Do you have to give a ring on it? Do you have to, because listen, I don't begrudge programs for giving. We talked about this last week, didn't we, about rings and did you award rings for certain things and all that kind of stuff. I don't begrudge teams for doing that for accomplishments. I don't see anything specifically wrong with that. That's between them, between the team. Thing is, word gets out, and then everybody passes judgment.
Right.
So that's whatever. The point is, if you're taking care of your business and winning those games, then it's getting to the goal that everybody who feels connected to the program as a fan or whatever wants to see, and that's to see them get to a conference championship game, to win a conference championship. And then what follows is the double-digit wins and getting to New Year's Six bowls and or possibly the playoff.
Yeah, so just a couple of texts here on the Specs text line. Pastor Smasher says 10-2, anything else is a letdown. This text says, sorry, Jeff, I usually agree with you, but you're talking like it was last season. 10 of 11 starters on offense are back. I'm looking for them to be a Final Four or fighting to get into the Final Four. 10 or 11 wins is what I'm expecting. That's great. If you got those expectations, that's great. I'm just saying, get to the Big 12 championship game. Give yourself a chance to win a conference championship in what could be your last year in the Big 12. I know Pete Thamel reported what he reported a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not knocking Pete Thamel, but everything we've heard at Horns 24/7, I know Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated was on with Bucky and Aaron yesterday. Ross said the same thing. Those conversations are not dead. Is anybody overly optimistic that something gets done? No, but it's not a for certain thing.
That Texas, they have 2 more years.
That Texas and Oklahoma will be in the Big 12 in 2024. They might be in the SEC. So this could be your last year in the league. It'd be nice to see you at least put yourself in a position to go win a conference championship.
Yeah, it would.
Get to Arlington.
That might also assuage the concerns that folks have every time that, and I know you've seen it, every time that the Longhorns don't win a game, be it a tight, closely played game, or one where it's not, where it's just disappointing the result. What invariably happens on social media, and then if folks text in, this team's not ready for the SEC. It's not time for the SEC yet. It'll be here when it's here.
You know how I take that, and I understand. I appreciate the passion.
So do I.
Of Texas fans. I really do, because that's my job is dependent on my jobs plural are dependent on your passion. But I'll never forget what you said listening to the call-in show after the national championship game. Like,
absolutely.
Maybe Texas wins maybe the greatest game in the history of college football, and somebody calls into the call-in show, and what'd they say, Craig?
Well, you think about this, folks. Here was the Rose Bowl in 2005, one of the greatest games ever played, if not the greatest college football game ever played. Certainly ranks up there. Vince Young has this landmark performance. They win this unbelievable game, 41-38, and folks were calling in to the post-game show. And most everybody was just ecstatic.
At this point, I'm not calling in. I'm probably down on 36, losing my mind already. At this point.
And there were a lot of those, but there were some. It was more than one, but one call I remember in specific said, guys, it's great that they won and all. You start with that. They won and all. Yeah. It was a national championship, but I'm really concerned about our defense. I mean, we gave up 38 points to that team, and. I just hope some of our younger guys can grow up next season, because it's a real. And I thought it made me think of Mac talk about some people will be generally miserable no matter the outcome. You won a national championship, and folks were calling concerned about the defense. A defense that was going to have a different look the next year anyway, because the seniors that were on that 05 defense were going to be gone.
Why don't you just go have an ice cream sandwich and sit in the corner and be happy for a minute?
Yeah. So that convinced me as much as anything else.
By the way, real quick before we hit the break, the kid in me, like the 8-9-year-old kid in me, loves the fact that this schedule has very heavy Southwest Conference flavor.
It does.
Rice, Houston, Baylor, Tech, TCU. Still got the OU game, even though OU wasn't in the Southwest Conference for those of you.
But they played them every year during those years.
Yep, it was a non-conference game. But I'm pumped about that. Looking forward to going to Houston, and I like the fact that Baylor's on the schedule and it's a road game, and just eat breakfast at the house and then go up for the game. It's nice.
Yes. All right. We'll have Inconceivable coming up next when we continue. someone say it would be inconceivable for somebody to be complaining about the defense when you just won the national championship. But, that's
we got to get to a Cameron and I are going to tell you about a high school basketball snafu north of the Red River that took place last night.
This will be fun. That's part of Inconceivable next on Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and hornfm.com. There's a message for you guys. How you feeling about your health these days? How about your weight? If you're tipping more than you want to on the scale, say, I don't know, the 250 to 300 range, our friends at Total Men's Primary Care can help you regain control of your life and your weight through a combination of coaching, diet, and medication. Total Men's Primary Care can help you lose the most weight while ensuring you stay healthy and help your body develop the long-term results. Taking care of your health has never been easier. Go to TotalMens.com. You'll click on that big yellow button where it says book an appointment, and you're able to easily book that appointment for yourself or a family member at any of the 20-plus Austin area locations of Total Men's. It's Total Men's Primary Care, the doctor's office just for men. Here's what it means. You can mean high school basketball. Now, with the details are Jeff Howe and our own Cam Parker.
I saw this on the Twitter machine last night. Cameron, you watched some of this game last night?
Yeah, fortunately, someone posted a full game highlight clip on TikTok.
Wow. Probably didn't take him too long in clock time the way this game was played out. I'll let you guys get the details.
It was basically it was Anadarko against Weatherford, a game played in Oklahoma. Weatherford, apparently really good team. And apparently the coach at Anadarko has a history of doing this to superior teams. Weatherford won the game by a final score, a high-scoring, up-and-down game played up and down the floor at breakneck pace. Weatherford won the game 4-2. 4-2. Apparently Anadarko just held the ball in the old Dean Smith four corners offense pretty much the entire game.
Had it for the entire first quarter, and from what I understand, didn't score a single point to the fourth quarter.
How about that? As a guy who grew up in the state of North Carolina, I can remember there was an ACC tournament game. 1968, Duke was nationally ranked, and they played Clemson in the first round, and Clemson kind of tried to hold the ball, and Duke ended up winning 43-40 in the quarterfinals. Then they played NC State in the semifinals. Final score, NC State 12, Duke 10.
Jeez.
That's an ACC tournament semifinal. And then they went away from the thing the next night. North Carolina ended up blowing them out in the championship. So, yeah, there's been freeze like that before, but 4-2.
Have you heard any movement? I know it's one of those things at coaching school that always gets discussed. Any movement on the UIL going to a shot clock?
No, the overwhelming response, Charles Brigham has told me this, is that the coaches don't want it.
Okay.
They don't want, and athletic directors don't want it because it's extra expense to install a shot clock, and you have to pay extra personnel to come in to run the shot clock.
For the smaller schools, that can be a big problem.
Don't have the budget for that, or the technical facility in some of the smaller gyms. I think about a place like Lipan up out in Palo Pinto County, a annual contender for the 1A state championship. They'd have a hard time even putting a shot clock in their little bitty gym.
The old gym at Johnson City where one step away from the baseline, you run smack dab into a limestone wall. Yeah.
Same thing at Brooksmith, south of Brownwood. Some of those where it's just like this is just stone there. Very little. There was one place I was doing Ponder basketball back in the day when I was in college. They played one place where the gym floor wasn't to 90 feet on the length, and they had the out-of-bounds line painted on the wall. So the player had to put their foot on the line to inbound the basketball.
It's one of those deals, Craig, where you're going for a loose ball, and you're like, do I save this possession or risk being a vegetable the rest of my life?
Yeah, could I get a concussion off of this deal? I mean, it's tough. I'm telling you, you hadn't seen high school basketball till you see it at the smallest level because it's something else. One time there's doing a regional tournament out in Lubbock. And there was a girls' regional game. And Nazareth, which is a perennial giant in power, was playing Allison High School. Allison is up on the way northeast side of the Panhandle, near the Oklahoma border. Allison High School had a grand total of 17 students in the school. They had a senior class of 1. So the senior was both the valedictorian, the highest-ranked student in the class, which would get you in the University of Texas, Also the lowest rank, remember, because you only won there. But they had 6 girls on their basketball team. 6. And got to the regional semifinals, I think they lost. That was in the days when they played that 3 games and 24-hour grind in 1A to do that. That was an awful lot of fun back in the day.
Yeah, Pastor Smash on the Specs text line. I don't think the Rat P, Jim, and Gerald had the technology or the capabilities of getting a shot clock up in there.
Yeah. Coach Scooby says, you got me thinking about the Ponder Steakhouse. Yeah, the Ponder Steakhouse and Club, where you could get the steak, but you could get calf fries, lamb fries, rattlesnake.
Rattlesnake?
Mm-hmm.
What does a rattlesnake taste like?
Chicken and corn-fed beef.
Legit chicken.
Yeah, you can get all kinds of things at the Ponder Steakhouse and Club there. I don't know if you could get shark there. You can eat shark in North Carolina on the coast. There's a place I go to in Myrtle Beach called Pier 14 where you can get shark bites. They're called them. There's like they're like little appetizer thing. However,
I just remember that scene in La Bamba where Richie's eating rattlesnake.
Yeah. The guys hinted about this because we were talking about Cocaine Bear. Today, actually, be Wednesday or yesterday, going back on the international dateline, New Zealand police identified a mysterious floating object in a remote part of the Pacific Ocean as 81 bales of cocaine, worth about $500,000 New Zealand dollars. The drugs were packaged in bricks. Photos show some of the cocaine labeled with Batman symbols and four-leaf clovers.
It's a bale of cocaine.
Yeah. So then somebody else put this tweeted this thing up and said, if you think Cocaine Bear is crazy, just wait till you hear about the cocaine shark that got totally addicted and terrorized drug smugglers in Florida in the 80s where they photoshopped a shark head in there. So maybe we'll get that in there. I don't know. Maybe that'll work to where you'll have a cocaine shark movie since we've got Cocaine Bear on the horizon for this. Couple of I haven't asked. It's been determined on this program that Cam Parker is a fan of fast food. Where do you stand with Taco Bell?
If I'm desperate, I'll go there.
Okay. Have you had their breakfast?
No.
Okay. All right.
Don't plan on it.
Well, supposedly the breakfast, ever since Pete Davidson's been doing the spots, they've had massive uptick on sales. Their breakfast burritos and the egg stuffed quesadillas jumped 9%. It's a big jump in the fourth quarter alone. And the parent company, Yum Brands, which is KFC, is, on that, and said in an earnings call that Taco Bell's U.S. sales jumped 14%, beating analyst expectations. And they said, we had honestly over-innovated breakfast. But when they went back to the basic stuff with Pete Davidson, it's been big time. So he apologized, remember, about the naked egg taco, and so they were just going to stick to the basics. So there's some earnings information there on Taco Bell. You heard about Aaron Rodgers' retreat, right? Heard about this retreat?
I read this on the Twitter machine, yeah.
What exactly constitutes a darkness retreat? Now, I heard Isaiah Collier yesterday say, Aaron, just go do some drugs and tell us you did that and then come back on Monday. I understand. Let me just say this for the record. I understand why people are done with Aaron Rodgers. Have had enough about this and that. It doesn't really bother me what he does or whatever. He's going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's been a multiple MVP and passing leader and all that kind of stuff. He'll figure out where he's going to play or if he's going to play next year. I don't know that the darkness retreat will make that big a difference about it.
Did you hear about him manipulating his handicap to win the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am?
I heard there were some people that were grumbling about that. But
sandbagging Aaron Rodgers.
Dude, if you cheat at golf, you're just a dishonorable person.
Well, that's the claim of some folks that he did that he sandbagged it and for his handicap.
I wouldn't put it past him.
He came in saying his handicap was a 10, which I find that very hard to believe. That Aaron Rodgers.
You think he was much better than that?
Yes. Do you see any of the shots he hit?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He didn't look like a 10 to me.
Yeah. He's going to be in total darkness for 4 days and 4 nights, though he could leave at any point if he wishes. And he said the whole experience can produce hallucinations similar to not LSD but DMT, dimethylamine. He said it's 4 nights of complete darkness. You're not locked in. You can leave if you can't do it. You can just walk out the door. It's a darkness retreat. It's just sitting in isolation, meditation, isolation.
Where do you go potty?
I guess you probably get out to do that. Now, remember he talked about that.
Bucket in there? That's gross.
Remember that he talked about that ayahuasca, that psychedelic drink that's made of Amazonian plants in a retreat during the off season, and the NFL said that doesn't violate the drug policy. We don't have that on that deal. So darkness retreat going on there for Aaron Rodgers.
I do a darkness retreat every day. It's called sleep.
Yeah. And I think there'll be probably a lot of that. Probably be quite a bit of that. All right. We'll have hour number 2 coming up of Light the Tower here on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260. We are live, local, and digital right here on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Second hour of Light the Tower on the Horn. Craig Way, Jeff Howe with you. Our producer is Cameron Parker. Glad to have you with us. And we're with you up till noon, and then it's Chad and Zay from noon to 3, followed by Ball Don't Lie. Rod Babers, Mike Harge. They'll take you up to 6:45. We have Texas women's basketball on the Horn tonight as the cleanup on aisle 1 is going on. They're still working on trying to get 105.3 The Bat up and running again, sustaining some extensive damage due to the ice storm. So for the time being, we've got the women's games on the Horn, so we'll have that on. And by the way, advanced programming note as a result of this, the debut season this year, the season over for Texas softball, is this Friday. And so they'll have the debut of their 2023 season, Andrew Haynes on the call, and those games will be heard on AM 1260. On the doubleheader Friday, the doubleheader Saturday, and the single game Sunday will all be on AM 1260. But again, Texas women's basketball tonight on the Horn against Texas Tech. It is a 7 o'clock tip-off from Moody Center. It'd be good to be back at Moody. I mean, I was there, 9 days ago, I guess was the last time.
Yeah, haven't been there in a minute.
Yeah. It was... the Kansas thing was good in terms of if you're going to do the 2 games and over 3 nights and all that stuff, but it seemed like I was just stuck in the Sunflower State for a decade.
Ready to
I was there 5 days, and it just seemed 4 days. It seemed like 5 weeks.
Well, you make that trip from Manhattan to Lawrence. There's not a whole lot of scenery.
No, you can stop at the service area along the Kansas Turnpike because they do have a Hardee's, which down in these parts is Carl's Jr.
Mm-hmm.
They have that. They have a Dunkin', and they have a Taco Bell, I think, in there. The Travel Plaza. Other than that, no, you don't get in. You don't get to anything.
Eating Taco Bell in the middle of Kansas is dicey, Craig.
I know it.
Yeah.
The only thing dicier might be eating at Taco John's. And Cam, you ever been to that fast food emporium?
Can't say that I have.
Oh man,
yeah. Have you done Taco John's?
Yeah.
You like it?
I wouldn't go there again.
Yeah.
They would feed it to us as a baseball team on our road trips in between games. We'd stop at Taco John's, and we would use the John afterward. That's for sure.
Yeah. Which team was this?
Spearfish Sasquatch. Summer League
Spearfish, South Dakota?
Yes, sir.
The Sasquatch. Gotta like that mascot name, huh? The Spearfish.
The fast food in the Pacific, not really Pacific, the Northwest is Frontier, they call it. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, there is a little place in Lawrence called Burrito King.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I worked at Wiener King. That was established last week. We talked about
you were
that.
the king of wieners.
That worked at Wiener King.
Like LeBron is the king of scorers, you were the king of wieners.
See, you said wieners, and you immediately brought up LeBron's name. Because a lot of people think that.
Like that. Yeah.
But Wiener King, I explained, was a lot like how Wiener Schnitzel is out here.
Mm.
It's a hot dog place like that. So yeah, we did that. But they have Burrito King. I noticed that. They're on, I think it's on 9th in Lawrence. But anyway, it was a long time, it seemed like, out there. So it'll be good to be back at Moody Center tonight. Clean up from the first hour of the program, some things left from the Specs text line. Somebody said, I'm sorry, but I don't buy that small schools in Texas can't afford a shot clock. Small schools in North Dakota, South Dakota don't have 10% of the money small schools in Texas have, and they still have shot clocks. That's apples and oranges because they don't have the budget. The budget isn't put into what goes into the other things in athletics there. And you may say you don't buy it, but I'm here to tell you, those schools say that it's not just buying the equipment, although there's a lot of old gyms and the wiring and would have to do with that. It's you have to employ someone to do it. And a lot of times, a lot of these schools, and Cam, you've probably seen this, they have trouble finding somebody to operate the scoreboard and keep the book in a lot of these places. So now you're adding one more piece to it. I'm just telling you what I've heard on that. I understand if you say you're not buying it, and I'm not disagreeing with you on that. That's your opinion on it. I'm just telling you that's what, and it's an overwhelming majority. It's not a plurality here. It's an overwhelming majority of athletic officials who told UIL people and the legislative council that we cannot afford this.
Yeah, I know, like, even my wife being the principal at her school, there's been times where she's had to go keep the book for JV and varsity volleyball, or
Did she
you know,
really?
run the clock for basketball. Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause there's nobody else to do it.
Yeah. So
It's hard enough right now to find officials for
that's
games.
another thing too. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I have been told over time. That's the deal for that. Somebody said, remember the powerful snook teams? Absolutely. Snook Blue Jays. They're of the late 70s and early 80s. I think won 7 in a row or 6 and 7 years in Class A.
Mhm.
So there were some great 1A. Like I said, I got to call some really high-level 1A basketball for Crum and Ponder, and they had some great teams. But Snook had great teams in Nazareth and Avenger and some other ones. Slidell was another one and Slidell won a state title a couple of years ago, I remember. And then something happened during the pandemic. Either they won before the shutdown, or they didn't get to play, or they had to pull out due to that. I cut my basketball play-by-play teeth on 1A and 2A basketball. That's how I got a lot of my early chops in on doing basketball play-by-play. Let's see. Beaver Lance Jason said maybe the Rice or the Houston game will be televised on Raycom Sports or HSE. Remember those in the day? Raycom and HSE. Yeah, that happened.
Dave Barnett called a lot of those games. I remember right.
Dave Barnett did, and worked with a gentleman by the name of Dave Rowe, who played defensive tackle on the Raiders, got a Super Bowl ring, was a starting defensive tackle for John Madden's Raider team in '76, but lived and based in Asheboro, North Carolina, where my dad was from, and worked at Randolph Electric with my aunt.
Wow.
There. Yeah. That's where I got to meet him and talking to him like, I think the two of them were doing the Texas-Virginia game when Phil Dawson won it on the 50-yard field goal, and we were talking about that back in the day. Somebody else said, hey, did you guys mention that R.J. Martinez from Westwood transferred to Baylor? His quarterback transferred from Northern Arizona?
But yes, he did.
He was the starter at Northern Arizona. So now he's transferred into Baylor.
Yeah, they want bodies in that room. You know, R.J. Martinez is in there now. Sawyer Robertson transferring over from Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I find some of the play-by-play voices we meet with during the week of a football game.
Yeah.
I find them to be some of them I find to be very honestly refreshing. Like pretty much everything John Morris told us about what was wrong with Baylor at the time, that's pretty much how it played out in the game that week.
Yeah,
like Blake Shapen hadn't developed like they'd hoped he would, and Siaki Iko while he was there just wasn't dominant, and he was pretty nondescript during the game. So yeah, I found J-Mo's take that week to be refreshing and accurate.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, and we were talking about Baylor. We were talking about how that game did mean an awful lot. Even though Baylor lost, they wound up going to the Fort Worth Bowl and losing Air Force in frigid temperatures.
You talk about just the combination of just bitterly cold weather. You're playing a game on TCU's campus
on December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas.
And as I said, if you're playing your bowl game before Christmas, it's not. You're like
ideal.
Tier 4 on the bowl scale. Yeah, it just looked like I was like, I don't blame Baylor one iota if they're just completely disinterested. And after about the first couple drives, it's like, yeah, just get it. And by the way, you're playing Air Force.
Yeah,
playing an option team in a service academy,
who was motivated.
Yeah, it's just recipe for disaster, and it was pretty painful to watch.
Yeah,
brutal.
Yeah, so they're hoping to turn things back around. Of course, the one time Baylor head coach Matt Rule, who tried his hand at the NFL, didn't work with Carolina, now at Nebraska, trying to shake up some things. And you pointed it out yesterday, Jeff, just trying to get bodies in, trying to get plenty of people in.
Let me see real quick if I can find that number. I think they're signing
what
class
was the number,
for 20,
like 74. Some crazy amount.
Needed to
It?
add just a whole allotment of
Pass-a-licket.
players. And let me see. What I did the wrong number. I hit the wrong button here. Hold on. Sorry, going to our 24/7 Sports Nebraska site. Let's see. 7 enrollees, 21 signed letter of intent. So that's 28 high school prospects, and then 11 transfers. So that's what, 39?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of guys coming in. there as Matt Rule tries to get it turned around. The Horns' big game coverage is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer, located in Leander on Crystal Falls Parkway and in Northeast Austin, I-35 in Runberg. Call Texas Truck and Trailer at 512-528-6038. That's 512-528-6038. There were news conferences this morning in Glendale involving the principals, the particulars. Andy Reid of Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes of Kansas City and the Philadelphia press conference as well. There was a trivia quiz that said which of these two teams has played in more Super Bowls. Quick answer, Cam Parker. Which one's played in more Super Bowls?
Which school? Which teams again?
The two that are playing in this year's big game.
Chiefs.
Very good. Yeah, this will be the 5th for Kansas City, the 4th for Philadelphia.
Chiefs going to run 65 toss power trap this weekend?
Don't you wish? January 11th, 1970, Hank Stram, coaching Leonard, let's just keep matriculating that ball down the
I
field.
just want Andy Reid one time to look at that play sheet and be like, all right, here we go. It's time for it. 65 toss power trap.
Yeah. And they've got the backs where they could do it. They could run a 65 toss power trap.
Were y'all upset that we did not get a sky hook from LeBron last night? I thought for sure, speaking of honoring past plays.
This was my impression of it. When I watched it, Linda and I were watching the game last night, and when TNT showed, and by the way, good call by our good friend Brian Anderson, BA from Georgetown, Texas, USA, by the way. When they showed and had him mic'd up, the halftime sequence where he's talking to his sons, like Bronny and Bryce, and he had mapped it out and said, I get 8, maybe 8 in this quarter, we do that. And it was like, by the way, his sons didn't seem to be too interested in any of this until it happened. And then they got kind of pumped up and they were videoing. But when he was talking to him, they were like, yeah, I guess, okay.
Yeah,
Neither did Anthony Davis. He didn't seem impressed at all.
Yeah, right. So
AD looked pretty disconnected from the whole thing last night.
He did. And so did Westbrook, by the way, too, at times. But he was when they had him mic'd up and he was talking about that to his sons, that I think he can get 8 this quarter, he wound up getting all 16 in the period. And consider this, he did not score a point for the first almost 3 minutes of that third quarter. So in the last 7 minutes, because he got his last bucket with 10 seconds to go in the period, in the last 7 minutes of the period, he scored all 16 of those points. And he's done, obviously, streaks and things like that down through the years. He's done a lot of that.
I enjoyed the record-breaking shot because to me it was the homage to Dirk with the one-legged fadeaway.
Yeah. But what I started to say was, I don't think he was thinking about any homages to anyone. He was LeBron.
I said that in jest, but yeah.
He was LeBron doing work. He was just going to grind it out and get the thing over as quickly as he could, but he was dialed in to making sure he got it. It was, you hear some people say, "Hey, I didn't know I had this coming." That there wasn't no way he couldn't know what he had and what was going on. That was clear, and B, he was motivated to do it. I asked Rory Harmon last night on Longhorn Weekly when she was on with us out at Pluckers about that triple-double she had at TCU, and I asked Vic about it, about how aware were they down the stretch. He said, I didn't know anything until it happened. I didn't know. I said, because we were keeping up with it every time inside the last 5 minutes of the game. He knew. I mean, he had it mapped out what he needed to do, and he went about it in a very businesslike manner and got it knocked out before the third period was done.
It was got to be the lock of the century, right? That he was going to surpass that because he had his family there, he had his wife there, he had Jay-Z was there.
His pregame attire,
Who did he go
Beats
over
headphones.
to see right afterwards that was sitting on the courtside
Was
seat?
that Kareem?
Well, obviously Kareem, but I mean,
courtside.
I know he went and saw Jay-Z at some point.
He said he went to
During the
Bad
sermon.
Bunny, the rapper.
maybe
They showed that on ESPN. I don't know if
Okay.
we went to exactly right after.
Okay. He went right over to the side right after that, and then. But yeah, he obviously Kareem and Jay-Z I saw, and then and Bad Bunny you mentioned. So anyway, he checked all the boxes, and it all, got all done, other than them winning the game. But he actually said, to his credit, when they came back from the break, and he was like, "Whoo, okay." He was sitting on. He goes, "No, let's win the game. Let's go and win the game."
And didn't play for most of the fourth quarter.
And didn't play for most of the fourth quarter.
Did you see Anthony Davis's press conference?
I did not.
He was not in a good mood.
Yeah.
And I'm sure neither was Westbrook, but Westbrook's going to be in the Utah Jazz tomorrow, so I don't
You think
understand
so?
why he's upset too.
You think so?
Sounds like it.
Okay. I've also heard on good authority the Mavericks are still trying to make another deal, and the Nets are still trying to make another deal, and one that will not include Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
They're trying to get help to help.
One of
KD.
those pieces they got in the Kyrie trade could be on the move.
Absolutely. Could be. All right. Up next, we'll have our Flex 30 update and our second hour Longhorn Notebook when we continue with Light the Tower on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9 AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. My friends at Leaf Johnson Ford can make it rather easy, or at least easier in these day and times, to buy that new or used car, truck, or sport utility vehicle you may have had your eye on, or maybe you haven't had your eye on one and just need some ideas. If that's the case, go to LeafJohnsonFord.com. You'll see the entire inventory from all of their dealership locations: Airport Boulevard, Koenig Lane, Leaf Johnson's Riata Ford in Manor, Leaf Johnson's Truck City Ford in Buda. All of the inventory is there. And you can pick out the vehicle that most appeals to you. That's what Linda and I did when it was time to make a new car purchase for her. We found a 2022 Ford Edge we really liked, brand new, and went down to the dealership and made the deal. But you don't even have to do that. You can do it all online with their online digital staff. So pick out the car you want, make the deal, get your trade appraised, work out the financing option that works best for you, and when all is said and done, they will deliver your new car, truck, or SUV to your home or office or place of business and haul away the trade. That's how easy it is. Check it out online at LeafJohnsonFord.com. Leaf Johnson Ford is still the leader. We continue to light the tower, and we get ready for now our Flex 30 update for today.
Flex ATX for the best high school sports coverage. Listen to the Horn and go to FLXATX.com. Flex 30 is brought to you by Brain Vault. Brain Vault is a revolutionary and patented mouthguard that has been proven to help reduce the risk of concussion. Visit BrainVault.com and join the movement.
Well, probably the best Flex 30 update was last hour, during Inconceivable, when we pointed out that Weatherford, Oklahoma beat Anadarko last night 4-2 when an outmanned Anadarko team elected to pull the ball out and hold it, and sparked a whole discussion about shot clock stuff and things like that. But in terms of local, last night, Roger Wallace and Isaiah Collier got a chance to call that Westlake impressive win over Buda Johnson last night.
2 more high school basketball nuggets I want to mention on the boys' side. Props to LBJ. 26 straight years they've won at least a share of a district championship with their win last night, 77-49 over Travis. And San Marcos High, I don't know, for maybe the most under-talked about team in the area, because I know they're kind of on the periphery.
Yeah.
They're now 33-2 on the year.
Yeah.
Malik Presley's healthy, and they beat Judson last night. Put a 100 spot on Judson last night, 100-62.
They're going to be sneaky really good in the postseason, I think. Certainly, I think maybe the team to beat in Region 4 in the 6A playoffs. How's San Marcos Academy doing?
Boys lost their last home game last night.
Okay.
Senior night.
Okay.
So, tough break.
Just around the corner from the postseason beginning. There it is.
Oh, what?
Yes.
We didn't mention that. I apologize for forgetting this earlier in the week. I know it's only Wednesday, but I was going to mention this Monday. Leonard Moore, the outstanding corner from Round Rock,
absolutely
committed to Notre Dame over the weekend.
How about that?
So forgot to mention that on Monday, but that was big time.
Corner, kick returner, member of our all-flex team, Leonard Moore. Cam, you got a chance to see a healthy dose of Leonard Moore this past fall, didn't you?
He's a game changer. How about Notre Dame's recruiting class just in Austin?
Marcus Freeman loves the Austin area, man.
He does. It's all about that. So pretty impressive stuff. All right, there it is. There's your Flex 30 update for the day. And it is time now for our second hour Longhorn Notebook.
Jeff Howe's Longhorn Notebook.
It's a Longhorn Notebook brought to you by Erin Bowersock, your home loan expert, your Longhorn lender. See if she can do for you what she did for Linda and me, and that's to get that home loan approval turned around in a snap. After all, Erin is the person who can make that 10-day or less home loan approval guarantee. Check it out for yourself at bowersockteam.com, BOWERSOCK, just like it sounds, bowersockteam.com.
You know what we'll do next week, Craig? We'll start getting into Longhorn baseball. We'll do some preview type stuff leading up to that. Is it still calling it the Lone Star Showdown or Lone Star?
It's got a different name to it.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah. It's
Lone Star Classic, I forget. It's State Farm something.
I'll pull it up.
Okay.
I'll pull it up.
But anyway, that 3-day event at Globe Life with Vanderbilt, Arkansas, or in order, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Missouri, is kind of that Big 12 SEC flavor. Texas getting the baseball season started. We'll start getting more into baseball next week. But Craig, anything else on women's basketball front? I know we heard from Vic, the audio with Vic Schaefer earlier. Just one quick reminder about everything going on tonight.
It's at 7 o'clock, and we'll have it for you on the Horn as they continue the repair efforts there on 105.3 The Bat. So we'll have it for you, 6:45 airtime. Kathy Harston will join me for that. The tip-off at 7 o'clock. Texas still in sole possession of first place, but they need to win tonight to hold sole possession of first. Last night, Oklahoma beat Baylor in Waco in overtime.
I was following that on the Twitter machine last night,
98-92. Baylor is in danger of not being in the race down the stretch to compete for the Big 12 title.
Baylor was up 5 with maybe a minute and a half left, and I thought, well, put that one to bed. And then I actually follow Bryce Cherry from the Waco Tribune Herald. Bryce covers women's basketball. And then I look at my timeline, Bryce is tweeting about overtime. I'm like, I think that game going to overtime. And then got caught up on it, so
And of course, Baylor still comes to Austin, a big Monday game on February 27th, the last week of the race. In fact, it will be senior night for the Texas women that night, and that's where Vic Schaefer made his $10,000 guarantee.
Oh, yeah.
10,000 fans, and they've been drawing lately more than 6,000. So 10,000 or more fans show up. He'll make a $10,000 donation to the Neighborhood Longhorns.
Nice. Just want to remind you, get over to Horns 24/7. A couple of really good articles from around the 24/7 Sports Network. I mentioned Dean Straka with the projected win totals for every Big 12 team. That's up on the site. Brad Crawford from a national perspective. Texas mentioned in his 10 way too early bold predictions for the 2023 college football season. Will Backus, who covers national college basketball for us, part of that team, has a column on why the Big 12 is the most thrilling conference in college basketball. I think we would agree with that. And then Deuce Robinson, Craig, the 2023 cycle for Sark and Company, not quite done yet, because they're still recruiting Deuce Robinson, the 5-star tight end out of Arizona, who, by the way, when Blair Angulo, one of our West Coast analysts, caught up with him recently, he was at Dodger Stadium doing a workout. There had the nice Dodger jersey on.
Yeah.
With his number on it. I was going through a workout. He said he'll have a decision on his football future made by April 1st.
Okay.
So Georgia, USC, Texas is still in the mix. It seems like a Georgia-USC battle, with Texas still one of the schools in the mix for Deuce Robinson. So you can get that interview with Deuce. That's on at Horns 24/7. Also, the only other thing I wanted to hit, Craig, is those guys going to the combine. I mentioned them earlier. If you missed it, combine invites for the NFL Scouting Combine have gone out. Roschon Johnson, Bijan Robinson, Keandre Coburn, Moro Ojimo, DeMarvion Overshown, all going to the NFL Scouting Combine. Craig, any of those? I think we all figured those 5 guys would probably be there. Anybody that you'll be really paying attention to in terms of how they test and what kind of, if they can improve their draft stock at the Combine?
Roschon Johnson, with everything he's done, and of course he had to pull back on his work at the Senior Bowl there because it was a hand injury.
Broken bone in his hand.
Yeah. So that'll certainly have me interested. And then obviously looking at the defensive guy, looking at the defensive lineman.
Moro Ojimo is one of those guys that I think for NFL teams would be really intriguing because of the fact that he played a lot at Texas. It's a really big factor in that D-line rotation for a few years. So he's got experience. He was productive at times, even though this year he was productive when the snaps kind of decreased and were more spread out through guys. You could say the same thing about Coburn, but I think it was Moro, Craig, because of his age. And people forget, like he hadn't, when he enrolled at Texas, he hadn't turned 17 yet. But he was a young cat coming out of Katy. So Moro Ojimo is one of those guys that I think would intrigue. Very well spoken, bright. All that stuff. He's going to check a lot of boxes in the interviews. I'm not saying he's going to get drafted, but I think he's the guy in Indianapolis that I think has the best chance to improve himself from where he is now to where he could be coming out of the Combine.
That makes sense. I could see that.
Yeah. So, and we'll get more into Combine stuff. And like you said, Roschon Johnson, DeMarvion Overshown just got done with the Senior Bowl. DeMarvion got to go through the whole week. Roschon didn't. And then I think everybody's going to be looking at what does Bijan run at the Combine, too, in terms of the 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
I've seen some mock drafts where maybe he's fallen late 1, early 2. I got to believe he's going to be a first-round pick. Because we always talk about you don't want to take a running back at the top end of the first round, but if you're at the back end of the first round with a first-round running back and you can get that 5th-year guarantee on them, you can get their best years for a fraction of what the market value for a top-end running back would be. So I'd have to think that Bijan's going to go in round 1.
Yeah. That's certainly the hope, and I think he's got it. That's why I said I'm curious to see how, things go from there, and who. It's gonna be a team that really has, I think, a real running back need to look at it and say we'll go ahead and go with him in the first round.
If he ends up with the Eagles, I will have my first favorite Philadelphia Eagle ever in history, and I'll wish Bijan great success. 15 games out of a 17-game season. Just accept those two. It would be great. Like if Bijan ends up with the Eagles, he could rush for 150 yards with the Cowboys win. Perfect scenario.
That's true.
He's spent a lot of time at the Star though with Jerry.
He does. Yes, Cowboys have a lot of needs. Running back's probably going to end up being one of them though.
New owner as well.
Yeah.
Yes, Cam. That until the good Lord decides that there needs to be an ownership change, it's kind of going to be what it'll be.
Yeah, I think that'll.
Well, we know the Jones family own it, but you guys know what I'm saying.
Okay. All right, we'll be back to wrap up today's edition of Light the Tower here on the Horn, 104.9, 101.9 AM 1260. We're live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Well, we've all got the latest, you might say, example of how the weather in the area could impact our lives. I mean, look at what we just now went through recently with the ice storm and the power failures. Our friends at Divided Sky can supply the answer to that. John Hardy and Divided Sky Roofing and Solar are local. They're the ones we trust for roofing, and they've been installing backup batteries and Generac generators. They were doing that all throughout the fall in the event that there might be a winter weather event like what we went through. Well, the rain and winter storms can certainly damage your roof. It can knock out your power, and Divided Sky can help you be prepared for any short or long-term power outage by installing a backup battery or a Generac generator. The backup batteries come with a 30% federal tax credit, and Divided Sky can help keep your family safe and warm by installing that backup battery or a Generac generator. Why not call and see which product is right for you? And that is TEC license number 37397. And also they carry a great line of solar products as well, including the Timberline solar shingles if you're coming to the conclusion that you need a new roof. Check them out on the web at dividedskyaustin.com. Well, they're hoping the good times will roll tonight at Moody Center for the Texas women against Texas Tech. Did you like the cars? You were so young. You probably didn't even get
Just
in.
looking at Deuce Robinson in that Dodgers hat, Craig. It fits
Pretty
him,
cool.
Fits him well.
Yeah. I'd rather see him in a burnt orange uniform.
Sure, David Pierce would like him with that burnt orange block T batting helmet on.
Yeah. Wouldn't mind seeing that at all. And they're underway with their workouts. We'll be visiting with Coach Pierce coming up in the coming, like I say, week to 10 days as they head up, get ready. Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, it's called the College Baseball Showdown.
College Baseball Showdown.
That's about as generic as you can get.
State Farm still sponsoring that deal?
Higginbotham.
Yeah.
Presented by Higginbotham.
Presented by Higginbotham.
All right, cool.
It's the College Baseball Showdown at Globe Life Field in Arlington.
At Gilf.
Yes. And it'll
what, Cam, you haven't heard that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that was big.
I call it Home Depot.
Let's file it away.
Mm-hmm. It looks like a big old grill, the roll top. And I've told people if you've never been there, if you're a baseball fan, you should go.
It's gorgeous.
It is. Now, for all the criticism it draws, and I understand it, for what it looks like on the outside, you go in on the inside, it's pretty cool.
Beautiful facility.
Very spacious.
Especially when they open the roof.
Yeah. But you know what? It is. You're right, Cam. It's spacious, but it's not as cavernous, I discovered, because I've been to all but, I think, 6 of the ballparks, the current ones in the major leagues. It's not you don't get the feeling about it being too overly spacious like Chase Field in Phoenix is like that. It seems like cavern. And from what I understand, the new Marlins facility is like that. I haven't been in that ballpark
Globe Life feels like somebody gave Minute Maid like a nice power washing.
Yeah, I think you're right. And widen the concourses and aisles a little more and that sort of thing. I think you're right. Kind of spread it out just a little bit more. So
Minute Maid's got some age to it now at this point.
It does. Texas will play Arkansas in that first game. That's coming up a week from Friday.
Those fan bases, I'm sure, are going to get along great for a season opener of baseball.
I know you'll be very busy that weekend. Texas plays Oklahoma the next day in basketball. Are you making the quick?
I think the basketball game is going to keep me here.
I
may see if I can get up and get to that Sunday game against Mizzou.
See, I'll do the Friday game against Arkansas. And then Roger and Keith will do the Saturday and Sunday games. I'll come back and have the men's game Saturday, the women's game Sunday on that. And we're putting together all our broadcast plans for the coming season. You have a lot of the same familiar voices you've heard on our broadcast of Longhorn baseball this season.
By the way, just got a note from our program director, Chad Hastings, who you will hear next. Longhorn Blitz tonight at 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Here on the Horn.
Immediately following Texas women's game. And our post game is really pretty short, so it'll probably be within 5 to 10 minutes.
All the more reason to
9 o'clock.
Listen to the women's game. It leads you right into Longhorn Blitz, some good football discussion.
Yeah, it's a good lead in right there. All right, that's going to wrap up today's program. Thanks to Cameron Parker, our producer, and for my co-host Jeff Howe. I'm Craig Way. We thank you for joining us. Invite you to stay tuned. Chad and Zay are coming up next. And again, then it'll be Ball Don't Lie, then Texas women's basketball tonight against Texas Tech.